He's an award-winning writer and journalist. Waubgeshig Rice has also been recognized for his work throughout Canada, and he now joins us in studio. So nice to see you, Wab. This is the first time we've actually met.
Yeah, great to see you, Tony. Thanks a lot for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
Tell us about your writing. I understand you've published how many books? Four?
Four works of fiction at this point, yeah.
And what's that process like? I always ask writers about how they got into the craft and what their inspiration is.
Well, I got into it mostly by being a reader. Very keen reading all kinds of stuff when I was a kid, growing up in Wasauksing, which is down near Parry Sound there. And by the time I got to high school, I was exposed to a lot of Indigenous authors, people like Richard Wagamese, Lee Maracle, Richard Van Camp, and so on. And I think that's where it really started for me, We talk a lot about representation and feeling, reflected in different media and so on, but it is really impactful. And for someone like me as a teenager, like 30 years ago, it was life-changing to see Indigenous authors write Indigenous stories, experiences like mine reflected back to me on the page. And that's really where the motivation began. I kind of got sidetracked by a career in journalism before I became a full-time author, which was, very rewarding, very wonderful at the same time. But yeah, it was just the opportunity to be creative and find ways to make connections with communities, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous. And I'm just so grateful that this is the path I'm on right now.
You went to Toronto Metropolitan University. What was that experience like?
It was pretty eye-opening, I went down there in the fall of 1998 when I was 19, and I'd had some experience off the res before. I did a student exchange when I was a little bit younger than that. So it wasn't a major culture shock, but at the same time, when you're going from a small place like Wasauksing, Parry Sound, to, the Big Smoke, yeah, it was jarring at first. And, it was kind of hard to find community in those days, especially at what was then called Ryerson, now TMU. There was a much smaller student body of Indigenous people. But once, I started making those connections, it really worked out. And, going through the program, the journalism program there, made all kinds of contacts at both CBC, CTV, the Toronto Star, et cetera, et cetera. So, getting my feet wet in journalism was really great at TMU for sure. What's
it like to reconnect with your Anishinaabe roots and also writers who feel the same way that you do?
It's such a gift, that's the best way to explain it. I learn more about myself the more I try to explore those connections, and I was really fortunate to be raised within my culture on the reserve, going to ceremonies, dancing at powwows and so on. But there's no way you're ever going to fully understand what your identity is, no matter who you are, right? It's a lifelong process. I'm 46 now and there's still a whole lot I got to learn. But when I can write about these things, be proud of them, hopefully evoke pride in other people, then those are some of the most special connections that you can make, right? And it's an ongoing process too, because a lot of Indigenous people are still finding their into the world of publishing and literature and so on. And I think it's only going to flourish in the years to come.
Wab, it was a real pleasure. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing your writing with our viewers.
Oh, miigwech, thank you, Tony. It was an honor to be here.
That was Waubgeshig Rice. He was in our studio today. And to see more of our Northern Book Club and, of course, our author segments, head to our website, CTVNewsNorthernOntario.ca.